This program contains subject matter and language that may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Halito Tribe, I'm your host, Chief Cali, checking in for another episode of Our Story, 1968, Indian Civil Rights. In previous episodes of Our Story, 1968, Indian Civil Rights, we have shown you different agendas that were put in place by the government to disconnect the American Indian Negro of North America from their identity on the land. One of the main tactics used and agendas put in place with the attempt to wipe out the identity of the original Americans of North America was that of reclassification. In episode 2 of this docuseries, we took a look into the story of Walter Ashby Plecker and his impact on the reclassification of the original Americans of North America. Now let's be clear, reclassification was not the only tactic used in the attempt to wipe out the reclassified American Indian Negroes of North America. In this episode, we'll take a look into another tactic used and the agenda put in place to further disconnect the reclassified American Indian Negro from their identity on the land. Now, before we move into the next episode, I'd like to take a moment and correct myself. In a previous episode, I made a statement where I stated that when it comes to so-called pro-blacks, Pan-Africans, or conscious community people, when dealing with information given about their so-called history here on North America, you'll hear them say that the information can't be trusted because that's the white man's information or the information of white supremacy about our history. So in my statement I made, I said, it's funny that when it comes to these communities, if you let them tell it, the white man lied to them about everything. I mean, everything except 2 specific topics of information that the white man also gave them to, which is Jesus and Africa. These 2 topics, so-called pro-black and Pan-Africans, they hold on to and they fight tooth and nail to defend it. Both were given to them by the same white supremacy they claim gives them false information concerning their history. Now, where I must correct myself at is where I stated that there were 2 things that pro-blacks believe white supremacy didn't lie to them about, when I should have said there were 3 things instead. Those 3 things would be Jesus, Africa, and the topic that we're going to discuss today on this specific episode of Our Story, 1968, Indian Civil Rights, which is Ancestry DNA kits. Yes, those Ancestry DNA kit tests.
We're going to tell our story, and you're going to listen. I'm gonna try it.
They don't know our story. Yeah. They don't know what we've been through, baby. They're all on the outside looking in. But we still gonna do what we want to. Touching conversations. A bunch apologizing and explaining, but we live and we learn. Hey, I bet they ain't think that we would make it, but we overcame it. This shit ain't nothing to play with. Family over everything is still the same shit, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing. Nah, we've been through hell and back, but we're still standing on all 10. Hey, you know how we do it, we go all in. Yeah, it's us over here about it. Spot when it's trouble in paradise, nosy motherfuckers wanna hear about it. Let's be clear about it. We don't make decisions based on their opinions. We can't expect, nor can we make them see the vision, as long as we know the business. Cause they don't know our story. Yeah. They don't know what we've been through, baby. They're all on the outside looking in. But we still gonna do what we want to. Never said it would be easy. fighting for who and what you believe in. Believe me, 'cause I ain't going nowhere, baby. I'll be here till the end of time. Take no chances, I won't jeopardize. You know I won't, 'cause true love only happens once. I know my past ain't pretty, yeah, but she still ride with me, yeah. You see, this ain't for everybody. So I went trouble in paradise. Nosy motherfuckers wanna hear about it. Let's be clear about it. We don't make decisions based on their opinions. We can't expect, nor can we make them see the vision. As long as we know the business, 'cause they don't know our story. They don't know what we've been through, baby. They're all on the outside looking in, but we still gon' do what we want to.
This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Well, when it comes to DNA, I know it's all a game, that they can't trace nobody back, no 5,000, 6,000 years ago to a landmass. First of all, you're tracing people that's able to up and move around. Just because I'm in Africa today don't mean my bloodline or I originated from Africa. It just means I went to Africa and settled in Africa and started a life in Africa. You can't test, if you're not testing the dead, then what are you testing? See, the dead don't move. He's in one spot unless you decide to go and dig him up. So when you say I got 50% of this person and 20% of Italian, 30% Nigerian and Ghanaian, all that, what's their name? In order for you to place these people in my bloodline, they have a name. I don't want to hear the 50%, because that 50% got a name. In order for them to be in my bloodline, what is their name? Because see, I need to know, do you know me? Because I want to get to know you. But no, that ain't what they're doing. They're giving you a number and telling you that you're 20, 25, 50% of Nigerian and this person. Then where did you get the DNA from? In order for their DNA to be in the database, you had to have tested them. So when people come out, oh, it's DNA, make it make sense. This is just simplifying it right there for you. How can you give me a number to somebody, but you said that you took a DNA from them is the reason why they in the database? So in order to trace me to this person, I need that person's name. See, a lot of people don't think outside the box. I think outside the box. You have these Pan-Africans that's pushing this DNA. And I'm starting to think a lot of y'all getting the cut from 23andMe and the rest of these DNA companies. I know that you're getting a cut. Because why would you promote something that you're not getting a cut of? Because you're getting a cut on having people go back to Africa that don't do their genealogy. See, genealogy can trace me from me to my mother, from my mother to her mother, and on back. That's called documentation. A DNA can't do that 5,000 years ago. Unless they dug up my ancestors out the graves, after took them out their grave. That's the only way they're going to know that that's my ancestor. Other than that, you can't trace me back, because guess what? On each side, it doubles. And I'm not marrying my cousin. So that means their mother have her own DNA, and her family has their own DNA. So that once it mixed, then here come me. I have mine that I will eventually pass down to my offsprings. So that's why I don't trust the DNA, because I know it's all part of the Jesuits. It's all the people that runs the DNA owns Utah. Now, how is it Utah is where all our records is, and the largest headquarter to DNA is right there in Utah. Is that where our land patents and all our family records that y'all sold off to these incoming foreigners? That's where y'all house everything at. So you can't run that game on me. You run it on people that in dire need to know who they are without doing their own, research. Your bloodline is your business. Do yourself a favor and find out who you are, and quit let other people who don't know you tell you who you are.
Ancestry DNA kit test was another tool put in place to trick the reclassified American Indian Negro off of his homeland of North America and claim a land that he is not indigenous to on the continent of Africa. Also, Ancestry DNA kits were also created to keep the reclassified American Indian Negro from claiming their proper identity right here on their homeland of North America. Now, many times you'll hear the reclassified North American Indian Negro involved in verbal disagreements with the Native Americans on the land. And also, you'll hear them in disagreements with confused pro-blacks or Pan-Africans who believe they're from Africa, simply because instead of believing their own family's oral history and matching it with their family genealogy, they would rather believe the white man's white supremacy out of Africa theory that they were given. Or they would rather believe the information that has them regulated to isolated land on reservations of North America. And in their disagreement with the reclassified American Indian Negro, you'll always hear them say, "Take a DNA test. Take a DNA test." Well, in this episode, we're going to take a look into those Ancestry DNA kits. We're going to take a look at those tests. And let's see just how accurate those kits are for the so-called Pan-Africans or pro-blacks. And we're also going to see why those tests are important for the Native Americans and not the reclassified American Indian Negro of North America. Let's also keep in mind these DNA kits, that there are different types of DNA. Ancestry DNA is not the same as forensic DNA. Ancestry DNA is not the same as paternal DNA. So when you hear people say, "Oh, you think DNA works as long as you're trying to find out if you're the father of the child," or you think DNA works as long as you're trying to beat a murder case or prove that you didn't commit a crime, those are not the same as ancestry DNA. So we have to get that understood. Now, with that being said, I like to say this. When it comes to the truth does not care about your feelings. No matter how you feel, the truth will always be the truth.
A number of things one will often hear when making the statement, "I'm a full-blooded Indian." Usually the opposition will counter with the response, "Prove it." When this opposition wants a person to prove Native American ancestry, they are almost always referring to DNA testing and never referring to actual bloodlines through birth records, which is the only true method of discovering a person's real ancestry. When a person says, "I've done a DNA test and actually traced my roots to several countries in Africa, therefore this proves I'm from Africa," well, actually, no, it doesn't. You have just fallen victim to an antiquated and purposely deceptive manipulation tactic. When a person submits their information for a DNA test, people don't truly understand what they are really getting. Some think these tests actually prove that their families came from Africa, but it doesn't. It only proves that some percentage of West Africans, along with the majority of Black Americans, have similar genetics. This literally proves nothing more than relationship. It does not prove ancestry, which can only be proven through birth.
So today we're going to discuss Native American or indigenous DNA and DNA testing. We're actually going to take a lot of the words from Ancestry.com. We're actually going to take a lot of the words from Ancestry.com's website and use that as our reference so that people can go and verify this information for themselves. And so it's going to be a lot of information, but I hope that you like what we share. I think that they will.
Yes, we're going to be using the words directly from Ancestry.com. And again, they have a whole section there where they are discussing indigenous American DNA. So, so we wanted to discuss what that specifically meant, what does that detail, and how did they come up, do these things,
Right. And so, I guess let's begin. Again, we're going to take the words from off of their websites regarding indigenous American DNA, and then we're going to go back and forth off of that conversation. So let's begin. We'll make sure that the website is up and available for y'all so that y'all can go and read the website for yourself. And again, we're picking things that we felt that we need to discuss. And so we might hop around the website just a little bit for those individuals that are interested in, going and reading this article themselves. But let's begin. So where did you want to begin?
Okay, well, right at the beginning.
Okay.
Because they have there, and again, I'm reading this, having Native American ancestors or indigenous American DNA does not make someone a Native American tribal citizen. Okay. So it goes on. There are differences between a person's genetic, political, and cultural identities. Native American tribal members are citizens of their nations. This is a political and cultural identification rather than a genetic identification, similar to being a citizen of another country.
Right. And I know, I guess we can just start from there and say, I know that I can go to Canada, or I can go to Mexico, or I can go to Japan and apply for citizenship there. And even though I may not have descendants from that population or from that region, I can still become a citizen of that nation, or for this instance, a citizen of that tribe. Right. And so that identity isn't necessarily regarding your genetics or your bloodline, but rather the decisions, the political decisions that tribe would make on who they allow to be a member and who they say you cannot be a member.
Right, and I think a lot of people really don't have that comprehension about that these tribes are political organizations. That they're not genetic. They do have genetic bonds, of course, but it is a political organization, especially as far as the United States government is concerned.
Right. We'll get into that a little bit later, right? And so, I guess the last thing I would reference with respects to this point is that because it's a political decision, your bloodline does, or the verification of your bloodline doesn't necessarily validate or authorize you to be a member of a particular tribe. It would really be based on the policies and procedures that that group are set up for themselves.
As a matter of fact, this is the next, under the next paragraph.
Okay.
It has individual tribal nations determine the criteria for their tribal citizenship.
Okay, right. And so based off of that, we know that we had thousands of tribes right, in the United States. And we have roughly 600 federally recognized and then a few hundred more state recognized. And so we have to acknowledge that the majority of the tribes of the United States are not being identified.
Yes, and well, we know that there were thousands of tribes just even on the East Coast.
Just the East Coast.
Where, especially in the South, where only 5 became recognized when there were even thousands in the Southeast.
Yeah, and if you don't mind us, we're going into this a little bit because I think it's really important for the population to know, right? Again, we're talking about Native American or indigenous DNA testing, right? And, we have to recognize that the term recognize is a political term to be used. And so, because the federal government recognizes an individual tribe as a Native American tribal group, it does not mean that other groups are not tribes also. The United States doesn't recognize them based off of the standards that they establish on who would be and who wouldn't be a Native American.
To speak on DNA, the reason they so hard up on DNA because a lot of the things that they did when it comes to our dead, they desecrated where we buried our dead. They took and built buildings on top of where we buried our dead because they knew that they weren't going to. It's not in their best interest to dig up bones of ours. Because then if you want to use DNA to try and prove who we are, dig up older bones, but they're not doing that because they build on top of where our people was. Also, the DNA test can be altered. That's just point blank period. It's not sound enough to be able to use to show who was the original people of this land. It can be where we buried our dead was built. Things were built on top of. Speaking of, in New Orleans, the Superdome is actually built on top of an American Indian gravesite. They're not about to knock the Superdome down to dig up old bones to see who those people were. They did that on purpose so they can utilize DNA to help pinpoint certain people to get inheritance to something that wasn't theirs. They use that as it's a tool to be used as a part of the indoctrination. If you're not using genealogy, then you're not using anything, because genealogy is being able to trace your direct bloodline to where these people were and who these people are. Point blank period. Now, if you need DNA to find out who the baby daddy is or who the baby's family is, close family, but to think that these people can take your DNA and trace you back to a continent that you've never stepped foot on is mind-blowing. And it's very gullible, and just not we got to start using our critical thinking skills. They're not digging up enough of our people to even use as far as the database goes. Our people is not even in that database because that database wasn't meant to prove that we were American Indians. That database was created to prove a lie that was fed to the people that all life started in Africa. That's what that database was created for.
These DNA tests categorize people into haplogroups based on similarities in genetics. When a Black American receives a test that almost always points to the west coast of Africa, they are doing so under the false narrative that the entire world's population descended from Africa. The reason for this is Charles Darwin and the theory of evolution, which has been academically accepted throughout the world of education, but has yet to be proven. In fact, all archaeological evidence confirms that the Americas are home to the world's oldest art, civilization, and most importantly, languages. These haplogroups, of course, fall directly in line with the evolutionary theory. There is one major problem, however. These groups have genetic variables that can be back engineered to prove genetic similarities between currently existing groups of people. And yes, they have been done. And the results show that the oldest population of people on Earth are here in America, but a very small percentage of so-called paper-backed Native Americans have this ancient DNA. In fact, the so-called Jews from the Middle East and Europe have none of this DNA. In fact, the world's oldest genes strictly predominate the lands of the Americas and are nowhere to be found on the continents of Europe and Asia.
Yes, and there were many tribes that, again, after this Reorganization Act of 1934, where the United States required tribes to do many things that a lot of tribes did not want to do.
And if you didn't want to do them,
then they're not recognized.
And if you're not recognized, then you don't get the benefits, right? And in today's world, if you're not recognized by the colonial system, then there's a avid push against you being able to even state that this is what I choose to acknowledge this part of my ancestry, this part of my bloodline. And so it's a lot of politics involved with this conversation, and it's not just blanket, do you have Native American ancestors or not?
Right.
Yes. And the United States purposely established that. And unfortunately, the majority of us being educated by that colonial system has to, re-educate ourselves about history, about tribal identities, but also recognize that the United States has established a process so that they can control the Native American population.
Yes, and one of the big things is this blood quantum. So now I'm going back to the article now.
Okay.
So I'm going to read what they said next. It says blood quantum is not how tribal nations have historically determined who is a tribal member. Rather, blood quantum was created and later used by the United States government to depossess Native American people of their lands and civil liberties. Now again, these are the words from Ancestry.com. Okay, it was not until the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934 that the United States began requiring tribal nations to use blood quantum to determine tribal citizenship. Now, they were using it before then.
They started using it after the Dawes Rolls and a couple of
before the Dawes Rolls, they were really using it because there were laws that were really determining. Remember that if you have
1/4, 1/6, 1/8,
yes,
1/16.
yes. So if you had if you had 1/4 Negro blood and 1/4 Indian blood, or no 1/4 Negro blood in your family, it didn't matter what you were. So if you were 3/4 Indian, that little blood quantum right there knocked many black people, dark-skinned people from claiming their native ancestry because of that law that said that you needed, if it was 1/4 Negro blood, that you can't be an Indian.
Right, and let's explore this paragraph a little bit further because it's a lot in here. Again, DNA testing and Native American identification in that testing is something that we have to understand is a propaganda tool and is really used to make money from the testing organization themselves. It's something that is socially relevant. However, legally, there's a very, very, I would say, slim path to that so-called recognition by the group. And this paragraph outlines, if you know the laws and the history, this paragraph really outlines that. So I wanted to go back and read a little bit sentence by sentence and kind of break it down. again, we haven't even gotten into what we really want to talk about today, you know? And so let's just real quick, let's just go over maybe 1 or 2 lines before we take our break and we come back. So it says, blood quantum is not how tribal nations have historically determined who is a tribal member. However, we know, it says that it was not until the Indian Reorganization Act that the United States began requiring tribal nations to use this. And so from a tribal nation's perspective, they're obligated, they have to follow the guidelines that the colonial system has established to identify who is and who isn't. And I, as an indigenous individual, I have a problem with that, because we have this outside entity coming in and then defining who is and who's not based off of the criteria that they choose to accept. And
again, we'll see that the blood quantum, because they knew that even in their 1910 census, they knew that many most of the people that were on those Dawes rolls were not full-blood Indians. So knowing how blood quantum works, they knew that, especially with the mixture that they had in there, that after several generations, that the blood quantum will be insignificant, and then so now you don't have the Indian problem anymore.
Right, and now you have the society that was initially being established, which would be the black and the whites, and there is nothing in between. And so, you know, for those interested in research, you can research the term Indian problem, right? So this Indian problem was a big problem for them, and it's a lot of historical and political reference to this so-called Indian problem and how they would eventually assimilate the lighter-skinned Indians into the European culture, and the darker-skinned indigenous population would be assimilated into the so-called slave population. And so they were really, you know, the blood quantum aspect of the United States history and with the Native Americans was actually one of genocidal practices, where they were really trying to wipe us out altogether.
Yeah, and again, it started way before the Indian Reorganization Act, because they had laws in place even in the 1860s and even prior to that, where they were establishing who could be Indian and who couldn't be.
I want to know some shit that baffles me. Let me tell you something that baffles me, and it has me kind of confused, right? To my American Indian family, right? Let me ask y'all this. This is supposed to be the age of information, right? Everybody claims to be so enlightened, right? And everybody claims that, oh, I'm so woke now that I see through the lies and shit, right? I just want to ask my Indian family, right? My American Indians, if we're in the age of information and it's 2023, why are y'all still arguing with Pan-Africans about why DNA kits are flawed?
All right, explain this to me like I'm a 2-year-old, okay?
What do you mean by that?
Why are y'all still arguing with Pan-Africans about DNA kits?
What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing?
Why? The Pan-Africans, they really think they have a point when they bring up DNA. They really think they really think they got some checkmate.
That all DNA
don't come from white people. You got African brothers that do DNA testing, brother.
Nigga, please.
We're in the age of information. If I can pull up some shows you twins.
This one actually says Poland. Mine doesn't. Mine does. What? Yeah. Look. Poland possible match. Poland was not detected on mine. It specifically says not detected.
Huh? Triplets and quadruplets coming back with flawed DNA.
Millions of people buy DNA test kits, curious to learn what their genes might reveal about their ancestry. But how accurate are those kits? Well, we tested some of them using identical triplets and quadruplets. Lisa Guerrero has the results.
And I've been waiting, baby.
There's no way out of this one. You're done.
This is me. The commercials run day and night.
Simple swab of the cheek from Family Tree DNA.
Companies offering to unlock the secrets to your ancestry.
Order your DNA kit for only $99 today.
Millions of people are buying these home DNA test kits.
Here we go.
So we got to wondering, how accurate are they? What would happen if, for example, triplets took the tests? You'd certainly expect them to have identical ancestry.
I think they'll be the same. I think it'll be the same.
So we found a set of identical triplets. Erica and her sisters use the popular test 23andMe. All they have to do is spit in a cup and ship off the samples.
Move your arm out further.
We also tested the Maynard triplets. You may remember them from their appearance on American Idol.
It's a raining man, hallelujah.
We sent their swabs to a test kit company called Family Tree DNA.
What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing?
First stop is the set of the TV show The Doctors, where I'm going to reveal to Erica McGraw and her sisters the results of their ancestry.
I was joined by the host of The Doctors, Dr. Travis Stork.
About the Great Inside Edition DNA test.
You are all 99% European.
But the test from 23andMe also showed some surprising differences.
For example, Nicole, you're 11% French and German. But Erica, you're 22.3% French and German.
This is crazy.
And Jacqueline, you're 18%.
I am surprised though, because we came from the same DNA egg and we have the same DNA. How our ancestry is a little different.
I would like an answer. I would like an answer.
Hear me and hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
Oh, don't make that face.
You're 18%.
I am surprised though, because we came from the same DNA egg and we have the same DNA. How our ancestry is a little different.
The lies, the lies. We sure wondered the same thing.
Well, guess what?
Let's see how the Maynard triplets did with their test from Family Tree DNA.
According to the kit you took, these are the results.
They all showed British Isles ancestry, but how is it that the range was so different? Aaron had 59%, Mandy 66%, and Melissa 70%.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
And how is it possible that Mandy showed 6% Scandinavian ancestry, but her identical sisters showed none?
That's weird. I don't like it.
It's the
one
exact
result, no result at all.
Same DNA that they tested.
Is that a little disappointing for you?
Very.
If I can pull up the scientists who deal with DNA at the colleges, at the universities, say, this, I wouldn't take it too serious. If I can pull this up, and you Pan-Africans are supposed to be so enlightened with information and you can see through the lies, why can't you get it?
this possible? In search of answers, I travel to New England, to Yale University, and meet up with Mark Gerstein and his international team of computational biologists. They study DNA and statistics, and they are stunned by our twin results.
I have to say that one really shocked us. I mean, we expected two identical twins to have the exact same ancestry, and they should. So the fact that they present different results for you and your sister, I find very mystifying. We thought for sure that the differences had to do with just when one person spit, there was a contaminant in the sample, or.
But then you looked at the raw data, and you're saying you checked, and there's no difference.
No difference. It's like it's shockingly similar. It's like it's scarily the same.
The Yale team downloaded and compared our DNA sections from all 5 companies.
Agreement between you and your sister is 99.6%, 99.7% agreement.
23andMe's own data says we're statistically identical. It's the same for the other companies.
So why would Carr be more Eastern European than I would if our DNA is the same?
She's not. I mean, there's nothing to say. I mean, there's no, you and your twin sister have the same genetic ancestry. End of day. I mean, there's nothing to say. I mean, that's the truth. Yeah.
How can we explain this result?
This must be purely in terms of the analysis that 23andMe does on the data.
23andMe isn't the only company with funny twin differences.
Oh, great. Now you're Scottish and Irish. All right, I give up.
Living DNA is serving up some stumpers, too.
Yours says South Italy, and mine says Tuscany.
I just don't understand how you could have a Tuscany marker and I don't.
I don't know.
Huh?
What do you think about the messages that are being sent to consumers?
I think it's misleading. These companies are really trying to push the idea that this is scientific, right? They are using scientific language, and they present it in a way that looks very sciencey and precise.
Caulfield says what people are really buying is entertainment.
I wouldn't take it too serious. If I can pull this up, and you Pan-Africans are supposed to be so enlightened.
All right, can we move on? Can we please move on? Can we please move on?
I'm dead out here, man. I can't function. I can't be.
What people are really buying is entertainment.
Oh, fuck!
Did that go the way you thought it was going to go? Nope.
I think it's recreational science. They can have a little bit of fun with this stuff. Don't take it too seriously, but know that you're just getting some information that is an approximation of how your DNA compares to other people. It's not tracing back your heritage.
Once again,
it's fake. That's fake.
It's a fake?
Yeah, that's fake. On my mama, that's fake. On my heart, on my life, my little brother grave, I could die right now, that's fake.
Who have been saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
The white man is telling you that. I mean, make this make sense. Make it make sense to me, right? Y'all want to be from Africa, right? Y'all say y'all from Africa, right? So you will want the DNA kits to tell you you're from Africa, right? I mean, because the white man told you were captured in jungles over there in Africa and shit, and they brought your ass over here, and y'all running with that. You would want the DNA kits to back up your Africa story, right? Yeah, If I can pull up an investigation showing people's DNA kits being thrown in the back of a shed.
Of this parking lot. Now, from the looks of things, they're no longer doing business here. But we found plenty of evidence in the trash they had been. Dozens of copies of soldiers' TRICARE ID cards. And cancer tests with saliva samples like the one our producer had taken in Austin. One belonged to Lloyd Matthews. So this is where we found your samples. Wow.
Here's the problem. It's the white man telling you that this fraud. This you're African. The white man is actually telling you this cap. It's cap. It's cap.
Do you think that they explain what you just explained to us?
No,
I don't think any of them does as good a job of pointing out the limitations. But, you know, businesses often don't go around telling you how weak their product is. Businesses often don't go around telling you how weak their product is.
All right, can we move on? Can we please move on? Can we please move on?
Over at Living DNA, in the fine print, the company admits some of its results are guesses.
We highlight the sources of your ancestry which are likely to be present, using our best guess of the exact source. The deeper I go, the more questions I have.
And at 23andMe, their guesswork isn't apparent until we stumble upon this.
Select confidence level. What? Why does it say 50%? Does that mean you're only 50% sure what you told me is right?
Yeah. I mean, at least 50%.
That seems shocking. Only half sure?
Yep.
Do you think that most people know that?
No. No. I would like it if they presented their uncertainties more clearly.
That's right. 50% confidence is 23andMe's default setting.
It's entertainment. The white man is telling you that. You see how y'all pick and choose what y'all want to follow from the white man? The white man, wouldn't he want to go along with you being African so you can get your ass up out of here? So they can take your identity on this land? Wouldn't that be the... Why would the white man tell you this shit's flawed? Like, it's 2023. Why y'all still arguing with these niggas about DNA? They really think they got some type of checkmate.
Do know that all DNA don't come from white people. You got African brothers that do DNA testing, brothers. Nigga, please.
We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. We provide a service.
I'm looking at you, my brother, and I say this affectionately. You might be one of the dumbest folks on the planet Earth.
If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%.
Yeah, he's finished.
I like to say this. When it comes to the truth does not care about your feelings. No matter how you feel, the truth will always be the truth. I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. With that being said, we'll see you next episode. Our story, 1968, Indian Civil Rights. Peace.
The moment you realize it's people that you love that you're gonna have to leave behind. I was told out. Look, we at war. Everybody can't go though. Some of us vibing high. Everybody can't go though. Some of y'all might leave family behind. Everybody can't go though. Could've completed, but you get deleted. Some people are defeated, so you feel deleted. And knowledge is medicine, know when you need it. If everyone go, I'ma know that you cheated. You think I'm conceited, I'm feeling completed. Life is a game and I'm planning to beat it. Life is a game and I'm planning to beat it. Everybody can't go though, beat it. You was ascending and starting to win. No pretending, actually win. Low vibrations, boxing you in. Who keep letting them toxins in? All my people are toxin us. Everyone on our toxin land. Ancient like cosmology. I am the source, I go within. I can't go unless I go to win. Really a God supposed to win. Anyone that's trying to get with me, just start doing the most you in. Trying to turn up, it goes to 10. Blood type O, you almost in. Minarchin, we all go in. G, I'm a rule, we all go in. Bring you the water, but can't make you drink. No, I'm not here to just make you think. If anything, I'm here to just make you fight. It's all lost, just make it right. Everybody ain't with it. Let me tell you, I don't like reading. Freedom ain't free, you broke, I get it. Let me tell you, don't like breathing. Can't even wake you up, you sleeping. Niggas are sleeping, scalping season. Some of y'all sleep through all this treason. Government beefing, now you vegan. Need autonomy, really don't need them. Now we rise, cause house is freedom. Really gon' hurt my heart to leave them. Really gon' hurt my heart to leave them. This assimilation or a cycle, they be hating on you for survival. That's why I don't mess with the Bible. Ain't nobody tribal going viral. We original, we hold the title. Lot of work to do, how you idle. Ain't no false idols in they bio. We ancient for ancient in Ohio. Say what you want and do what you do, but I'm starting to get, I don't know about you. Gotta go within, can't go on YouTube. If you think you know, you ain't got no clue. Say what you want and do what you do, but I'm starting to get it, I don't know if you do. Gotta go within, can't go on YouTube. You thinking you know, you ain't got no clue. We at war. defeated, so you feel deleted. And knowledge is medicine, know when you need it. If everyone go, I'ma know that you cheated. You think I'm conceited, I'm feeling completed. Life is a game and I'm planning to beat it. Life is a game and I'm planning to beat it. Look, gotta be. Look, everybody can't go, though, beat it.
Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Our Story YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode in season 1 of the docuseries Our Story, 1968 Indian Civil Rights, showing every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Our Story YouTube channel. Also, make sure to follow the various Our Story social media platforms for more information, interviews, and even bonus footage from different episodes of the docuseries. Our Story, 1968 Indian Civil Rights, Season 1. Like, share, and definitely subscribe to the channel. Peace, tribe.